Hi, I'm Jennifer Hollick with the World War II Research and Writing Center and Finding the Answers Journey. It's November 2019, and this morning I posted an article on my website which has a bit of a triggering title called "Do Genealogy and Military Researchers Need Therapy?" And the point of the article is to get people thinking and to hopefully start some conversations, whether you choose to join the conversation I'm offering to research professionals and the everyday researcher, or you just start talking about it among your friends or with your genealogy colleagues or military colleagues or anybody. Because the topics that I talk about in this article, which I'll post a link to with this video, are things I don't see us talking about. So let me explain a little bit of what it's about and where I'm coming from with this. I've been researching my family tree for more than 20 years. And over a decade ago, I started looking more into my military ancestors. Through all of that research, whether it was personal or after I started my business and I started helping clients, we uncover a lot of family secrets, sometimes lies, sometimes omissions. Maybe they're secrets, maybe they're not. And a lot of inherited trauma and negative emotions, whether that's guilt, shame, there could be a lot of anger. Some of it simmers beneath the surface and shows up in other ways. Sadness, grief, loss, so many different things can show up through the research that we do. And I just don't see people talking about it. Now, as I've done the military research and I wrote the books about my family members, that took me into some serious depths of pain. Pain for people I never met that I was grieving as I wrote their stories, did some more research, learned how they died in the wars, and connected with them on a spiritual level. It also creates grief in me when I work with clients that are carrying a heavy burden. They become very sad by the information that we discover. Sometimes they have an idea of it and sometimes they don't. And it creates a lot. And I know that the people that I work with, the people that I talk to online, whether we're talking about this outright or not, a lot of us carry all of these different feelings, whether we're doing our own research or helping somebody else. Now, a couple of years ago, if you followed me on Finding the Answers Journey, you'll have seen a little bit of my caregiving experience this year. And I did quite a lot of videos at the beginning of the year on that site, and those are also on YouTube. When I acknowledged last August that I was indeed a caregiver for my husband, and all of these emotions that I couldn't name, didn't really understand, were certain things like anticipated grief, and I was grieving over the loss of things and what could come, and I had a lot of fear and anger and all kinds of things that you deal with as you're moving through this. Once I was able to name that and I started doing research, different kind of clients started showing up to work with me who were also carrying some sort of grief and loss, whether it was for somebody that they were a caregiver for or somebody that they lost in their family, or in many cases, excuse me, clients who were researching family members who died in the war. And I've asked often, how is it I can love somebody so much that I never met? And a lot of my clients feel that way, whether they were brother or sister related to them or a cousin or some other distant relative. We form these connections and we grieve, and we have a lot of the things that come with that. But again, I don't see people talking about this. To save myself through the caregiving process and the grief and the PTSD and the triggers and everything that were happening, I did a lot of research around all of these different topics. And then this year, I also created a military masterclass using one woman's journey through her father's World War II combat experience, PTSD, and her escape from life and the return home for reconciliation and healing. And in that masterclass, not only the people that took the class, but myself experienced profound change. And we explored many of these different topics, and we shared resources. And actually, the people that took the classes still will send emails to the people who were in their class saying, hey, I just read this great book, or I listened to this podcast, or saw this article, and I think it would be beneficial. Maybe you should listen. So they're still doing that. But again, I don't see the genealogy and military communities talking about any of this. Now, I don't dabble in DNA. I don't work with it beyond exploring inherited trauma and epigenetics. But I do kind of read what happens through different Facebook feeds and things with professionals who are helping clients with DNA, or just people doing their DNA and they have questions. And we are starting to see more and more as more companies go online offering DNA services, that there are a lot of family secrets that are coming out. There are a lot of reunions of siblings that they didn't know exist, and a lot of good things happening, but there's also a lot of trauma being dug up too. And I don't see the DNA professionals either talking about this. So I encourage you to read the article that I posted, and if you're interested in having a conversation around any of these topics, please let me know, because I'm having the first one on Monday, 18 November 2019, with some professionals. I'm keeping these conversations small to a limited number of people so that everybody has a chance to share. And in the first group of people who have chosen to participate, these are all research professionals. We have some who work with adoptees, and we have some who work with DNA. We have an artist who has done military research, and she teaches art classes and talks a lot about ancestors and connecting with them. We have some genealogists who do straight genealogy. We have some people who help create family history books and heirloom books. And we have some writers that work in the genealogy and the creative nonfiction field. And I think I may be, besides our artist, the only other military researcher in the group. But we do have an interesting group of people, and they're all women who've chosen to step into this and have this discussion. And we'll see where that goes. What I can tell you is, for me personally, you're going to start seeing a lot more resources around this, both for professionals, whether they're in the military or genealogy community or other related professions. And these resources, whether they're webinars or workshops, books, articles, they're going to be written for a couple of different audiences: the professionals who should be looking at these things, I think, and the researchers. So that we have resources for everybody. Not every researcher will hire somebody to help them, but I think there should be resources available to help people navigate and process what it is that they find. And on the professional level, I will also be talking a bit more about compassion fatigue, which is along the lines of caregiver fatigue. There are studies, and there's a really great TED Talk that I will be including with the resources I create, where a chaplain in Vietnam was behind safe lines talking to the soldiers who were coming back from the front lines. And he began to take on symptoms of depression, anxiety, PTSD, being triggered, being unable to sleep, all of these different things, because he listened to what these soldiers were saying. And that is something that I realized when I saw that TED Talk. Not only did I have caregiver fatigue, I also have compassion fatigue from years and years and years of working with my stuff and other people. And it does change you, and it does affect you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And again, we're just not talking about it. If you do want another resource to take a look at as these different conversations are happening and different articles and resources are coming out, there is a great book by Elizabeth Rosner called The Survivor's Cafe, and it talks about the legacy of trauma. She also talks about the inadequacy of language and a lot about memory and how we choose or not choose to carry forth the stories that should be carried forth. And she asks a lot of very deep questions around, are we even allowed to tell the stories of people maybe who survived the Holocaust or some other massive tragedy. So it's a really interesting, deep book. I devoured it in 2 days this weekend, and I'm currently making notes about it right now to better understand what I read and to help continue the dialogue that I'm hoping to start. So if you're interested in talking about any of these topics, please take a look at the article that I've linked with this video. And if you have questions, let me know. I'm going to be setting up another professional conversation pretty soon, and hopefully one soon for researchers. We have the holidays coming up, so we'll have to move around that. But I would love to explore this with you. And if you are doing this, I'd definitely like to hear from you, because I'm just not seeing it out there in those communities. And I really think we need to be talking about it. I think it's our responsibility. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.